Gymnastics is the art of precision, strength, and beauty, but sometimes the most graceful routines take a terrifying turn. Behind the flips, twists, and landings lie accidents so shocking they shook the world. From heart-stopping falls to moments that ended lives in an instant, these are the stories no one wants to watch, but can't look away from. Brace yourself for the unimaginable. This is 1 hour of most disturbing gymnastics deaths of all time. July 3, 1980, in Minsk. Just 2 weeks before the Moscow Olympics. Elena Mukhina, a 20-year-old Soviet gymnast, was training at the Minsk Palace of Sport. This was supposed to be her time to shine. But what happened that day would change her life forever. Elena had already reached the top of her sport. In 1978, she won the all-around gold at the World Championships in Strasbourg, beating legends like Nadia Comaneci and Nelly Kim. Many believed she would lead the Soviet team at the upcoming Olympics. But behind the success was a harsh system that demanded perfection from its athletes, even when it risked their health. At the time, Elena was still healing from a broken leg that had sidelined her the year before. She needed rest, but her coaches didn't allow it. They removed her cast too soon and forced her to lose weight quickly. Despite the pain and weakness, she was pushed to train hard. She was also ordered to learn a risky tumbling move called the Thomas Salto. It was a difficult move originally meant for male gymnasts, and very few women had tried it. Elena told her coach Mikhail Klimenko that it was too dangerous. She warned them again and again that she could get seriously hurt, but her concerns were ignored. Her coach insisted that the move was necessary if she wanted to stay on the team. Elena, still injured and under pressure, felt trapped. If she didn't perform the move, she would likely lose her spot to someone else. So, on July 3, 1980, Elena attempted the Thomas Salto during a training session. She under-rotated and landed on her chin. The impact broke her neck and left her paralyzed from the neck down. Right after the accident, the Soviet sports officials tried to hide what really happened. They told the media that Elena had fallen off the balance beam or fallen while running toward the vault. In truth, she had fallen doing the Thomas Salto, the very move she had warned them about. The officials blamed Elena, saying she wasn't ready for such a move, but they ignored the fact that she was forced into it. A media campaign painted her as careless, when in fact she had done everything she could to avoid the injury. Later, Elena opened up about the pressure she faced. She said she had told her coaches many times that she might break her neck doing that move. It was going to happen, she said. I had already been injured several times, but they never listened. Elena would spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. The gymnast who once amazed the world now had to relearn how to eat, dress, and speak. She lived in constant pain, and her emotional health also declined. She withdrew from the world, cared for by her grandmother and later a former gymnast, Elena Gurina. In interviews, Elena criticized the Soviet system that treated athletes as tools for national pride. She believed that victories mattered more than human lives. Still, she felt that her coach was just another victim of that same system, someone following orders. Her injury deeply affected those around her. Nelly Kim, a teammate, said she was shocked. She questioned why Elena had been forced to do something she wasn't strong enough for. After seeing what happened, Kim decided to retire after the 1980 Olympics. Elena was later given awards like the Order of the Badge of Honor and the Silver Medal of the Olympic Order, but they did little to make up for her suffering. On December 22, 2006, Elena Mukhina passed away at age 46 due to complications from her injury. Her story is one of talent, pressure, and a system that failed to protect its athletes. And though she's gone, the world of gymnastics still remembers. It was July 26, 1994, in Kansas City, Missouri. Christina Christy Renee Henrich, a 22-year-old former U.S. national gymnast, passed away after a long struggle with severe health issues linked to disordered eating. Her body had become too weak to recover, and she died from multiple organ failure. Once one of the top gymnasts in the country, Christy's story would go on to expose the dangerous pressure placed on young athletes, especially female gymnasts. Born on July 18, 1972, Christy was known early on for her talent and dedication. At only 4 feet 10 inches tall, she was small but powerful. She started competing nationally by age 14. In 1986, she earned a spot on the U.S. national gymnastics team after finishing 5th in the junior division at the U.S. Nationals. By 1989, she was one of the most promising gymnasts in the country. That year, she competed at the World Championships in Stuttgart, Germany, where the U.S. team placed fourth. Christy nearly medaled on the uneven bars. But despite her strong performances, the pressure to look a certain way was already affecting her. In elite gymnastics, being small and thin is often seen as just as important as being skilled. Christy didn't fit the usual mold of the sport's ideal body type. The most damaging moment came at the 1988 World Championships in Budapest, Hungary. A judge told Christy she needed to lose weight if she wanted to make the Olympic team. At that time, she weighed about 95 pounds, already very light. That comment deeply affected her, leading to years of unhealthy behavior tied to her weight and body image. Christy began extreme dieting, eventually developing harmful habits that hurt both her body and mind. Her weight started dropping fast, but instead of backing away, she pushed herself harder to compete. Her health was declining, though it wasn't obvious to everyone at first. Her longtime coach, Al Fong, who had previously trained gymnast Julissa Gomez, noticed what was happening. In 1989, he confronted Christy about her dangerous eating habits and warned her about the risks. He arranged for her to meet with doctors and nutritionists, hoping to help her recover. But Christy, overwhelmed by the pressure to meet impossible standards, refused help. Her weight eventually fell to just 47 pounds. In 1990, she stopped competing and left elite gymnastics the following January. Her body could no longer handle the demands of the sport. Despite her health struggles, she remained determined and dreamed of returning to competition. Over the next few years, Christy saw many doctors, was hospitalized multiple times, and received psychiatric care, but nothing seemed to work. By 1994, her condition had worsened. She was admitted to Research Medical Center in Kansas City, weighing just 47 pounds. Her organs had begun shutting down. She spent more than 2 weeks in the hospital, surrounded by family, her fiancé, and friends. On July 26th, only 8 days after her 22nd birthday, Christy passed away. Her death shocked the gymnastics world and led to changes in how the sport approached health. Programs were launched to educate athletes about nutrition, mental health, and body image. Even television networks like NBC and ABC stopped mentioning gymnasts' weights during broadcasts. Christy's story led to serious conversations about the unrealistic demands placed on athletes. While those changes can't bring her back, they've helped create a safer environment for future gymnasts. Christy Henrik was a gifted athlete with a bright future. Her life ended far too soon, but her story made a lasting impact. Even today, her legacy continues to push for better care, awareness, and support for athletes across all sports. It was January 18, 1991 in Wengen, Switzerland. The Lauberhorn race, one of the most challenging downhill ski competitions in the world, was about to take place. That year, a new qualification system was introduced, allowing only the top 30 skiers to enter the main event. Many athletes believed this added more pressure and risk to an already dangerous sport. Among the competitors was 20-year-old Austrian skier Gernot Reinstadler. He was a rising talent, known for his speed and skill. Many believed he had a bright future in professional skiing. His mother, Traudl Eder, a former ski racer herself, had supported him every step of the way, but neither of them could have imagined that this race would be his last. Gernot was set to compete in the qualification round. He wore bib number 44, putting him in the middle of the lineup, but rankings didn't faze him. He was focused on securing his spot. As he raced down the Lauberhorn course, he showed precision and confidence, maneuvering through sharp turns and steep slopes at high speed. However, as he approached the final section known as the finish S, something went terribly wrong. The area was one of the most dangerous parts of the course where skiers reached extreme speeds. At that moment, Gernot lost control. His balance shifted forward, launching him into the air. He crashed into the safety net with tremendous force, and his ski became trapped in the netting. The impact caused severe injuries, including extensive internal damage. The scene was chaotic. A trail of blood marked the snow as Gernot lay motionless. Spectators and race officials watched in shock as rescue teams rushed to help him. Medics immediately gave him oxygen and quickly airlifted him to a hospital in Interlaken. At the hospital, doctors fought to save his life. He underwent a 6-hour operation as surgeons tried to control the damage. Despite receiving over 40 liters of blood, his injuries were too severe. In the early hours of January 19th, Gernot succumbed to his injuries. News of his passing devastated the skiing world. The World Cup events scheduled for that weekend were canceled in his honor. Many saw him as a future champion, and his tragic loss left a deep impact on the sport. Following his death, serious discussions about ski racing safety resurfaced. The Lauberhorn course had always been known for its dangers, but Gernot's accident made it clear that improvements were necessary. In the years that followed, Modifications were made, including stronger safety nets and cut-resistant materials to reduce the risk of similar injuries. For Gernot's mother, the loss was unbearable. She later spoke about the heartbreak of losing her son, describing it as an unimaginable pain that never faded. His close friend and fellow skier, Stefan Eberharder, was also deeply affected. The two had shared a room during training, and their friendship was strong. Days after Gernot's passing, Eberharder won a world championship race and dedicated his victory to his lost friend. However, the moment was bittersweet, knowing Gernot was no longer there to compete alongside him. The skiing community honored Gernot's memory in various ways. A memorial plaque was placed at the Lauberhorn finish line as a permanent tribute to the young athlete. His story also sparked debates about safety in alpine skiing. FIS officials acknowledged that while safety measures had improved, the sport would always carry risks due to its speed and complexity. Despite the tragedy, Gernot's legacy lived on through the changes made in ski racing safety. His accident led to improvements that have likely saved lives in the years since. Though his career was cut short, his impact on the sport remained. His name became a symbol of the dangers of high-speed racing and the need for continuous safety improvements. For his mother, friends, and fellow athletes, the pain of his loss never fully faded, but his story served as a reminder of the risks involved in professional skiing and the importance of protecting those who dedicate their lives to the sport. It was October 28, 2023, a cold Saturday evening in Sheffield, England. The Sheffield Steelers were playing against the Nottingham Panthers in an elite ice hockey league, or EIHL Challenge Cup match at the Utilita Arena. Over 8,000 fans filled the arena, excited for the high-stakes game. Among the players was 29-year-old Adam Johnson, an American forward for the Nottingham Panthers. No one knew that this match would soon be remembered for a devastating incident. Johnson, born on June 22, 1994, in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, had built an impressive career. He played briefly in the NHL with the Pittsburgh Penguins before moving to Europe, where he played in Sweden and Germany. By the time he joined the Nottingham Panthers for the 2023-24 season, he was a respected athlete, admired by fans and teammates. During the second period of the game, around the 35th minute, Johnson was skating across the ice when a collision led to a terrible accident. Sheffield Steelers defenseman Matt Petgrave lost his balance and fell. As he went down, his left skate lifted off the ice, striking Johnson in the neck. The impact was severe. The blade made direct contact with a vital area, causing life-threatening injuries. Johnson tried to skate toward the team bench for help, but he collapsed before he could get there. The arena fell silent as medical staff rushed to his aid. A barrier was placed around him while paramedics worked urgently to stop the bleeding. Fans, players, and officials watched in shock, not fully grasping the severity of what had happened. Despite the best efforts of medical personnel, Johnson's injuries were too severe. He was taken to the hospital but did not survive. His passing was later confirmed, with a post-mortem revealing that the injury to his neck had been catastrophic. The hockey world was in mourning. The game was immediately stopped, and fans were asked to leave the arena. Other matches scheduled for the weekend were canceled as a mark of respect. Tributes poured in from players, coaches, and fans, all grieving the loss of a talented young player. Beyond the tragedy, Johnson's passing raised serious concerns about player safety in ice hockey. Many questioned whether the accident could have been prevented. Should neck protection be mandatory? Why hadn't stricter safety regulations been enforced earlier? The debate over player protection gained new urgency. In response, the English Ice Hockey Association, or EIHA, which oversees hockey in England below the elite league level, made neck guards mandatory starting in 2024. This decision was influenced by a prevention of future deaths report from Sheffield senior coroner Tanika Rodden. She expressed concern over the lack of neck protection in the sport, warning that without changes, similar incidents could happen again. Despite this, the EIHL, where Johnson had played, did not immediately enforce a neck guard rule. Instead, the league strongly encouraged players to wear them, but some felt that was not enough. The conversation about safety reached other leagues as well. Several NHL players, including Anze Kopitar and Tyler Bertuzzi, started wearing neck guards in response to the tragedy. The investigation into the incident continued. South Yorkshire police arrested Matt Petgrave on suspicion of manslaughter in connection with Johnson's death. The arrest surprised many, as most people believed the incident was an accident. Petgrave himself called it a tragic event and sought financial support for his legal defense. He insisted he had no control over what happened and expressed deep remorse. In November 2023, Petgrave was released on bail while the investigation remained ongoing. His lawyer worked on his case, and a crowdfunding campaign was launched to help cover his legal expenses. The campaign was controversial but raised nearly £10,000. As authorities continued their investigation, hockey organizations faced increasing pressure to improve safety measures. While the EIHL had yet to enforce a neck guard rule, other leagues took action. Canada's Hockey League made neck guards mandatory for all players, hoping to prevent similar tragedies in the future. At the time of his passing, Johnson had been planning a future with his fiancée, Ryan Wolf. The couple had been together for 3 years, and Johnson had recently purchased an engagement ring intending to propose. His sudden loss was heartbreaking for his loved ones, teammates, and the hockey community. In the days following his passing, fans gathered outside Nottingham Arena to pay their respects, leaving flowers and messages of support. His teammates wore black armbands in his memory, and moments of silence were observed at hockey hockey arenas worldwide, including in the NHL. The tragedy left the sports world with many unanswered questions. Could better safety measures have saved Johnson? Should leagues have acted sooner to enforce neck protection? As the investigation continued, the hockey community was left to reflect on how to prevent another loss like this. It was November 25, 2014, at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Philip Hughes, a 25-year-old Australian cricketer, was playing for South Australia in a Sheffield Shield match. He had faced many fast deliveries before, but this one would change everything. Hughes was a talented batsman known for his unique technique and determination. He had already played 26 test matches for Australia and was working hard to earn his spot back on the national team. His passion for the game made him a beloved figure both on and off the field. That day, Hughes was batting at 63 runs when fast bowler Sean Abbott delivered a short-pitched ball. Hughes attempted to play a pull shot but misjudged it. The ball struck him on the left side of his neck just below his helmet. At first, it seemed like an ordinary injury. He stumbled for a moment, then collapsed on the pitch, unconscious. Medical staff rushed to him, but the impact had caused a rare and severe injury, damage to his vertebral artery, leading to a brain hemorrhage. He was quickly taken to St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, where doctors placed him in an induced coma. His family, including his mother and sister, had been watching from the stands, powerless to help. Despite the doctor's best efforts, Hughes never regained consciousness. 2 days later, on November 27th, just before his 26th birthday, he was declared dead. The cricket world was in shock. It was hard to believe that a player could suffer such a tragic fate from a routine part of the game. Fans and fellow players struggled to process what had happened. Tributes poured in from around the world. The hashtag #PutOutYourBats movement spread across social media, with people placing cricket bats outside their homes as a sign of respect. The tribute extended beyond the cricketing community. Hugh Jackman placed a bat on a Broadway stage, and Elton John dedicated a song to Hughes during a concert in Munich. Hughes's teammates were devastated. David Warner, who had been on the field when it happened, was deeply affected. Australian captain Michael Clarke, who had a close friendship with Hughes, gave an emotional eulogy at his funeral, calling him a brother. He later admitted the loss left him mentally shattered. In response to the tragedy, the first test match between Australia and India, scheduled for December 4th, was postponed. When the match finally took place in Adelaide, it became a tribute to Hughes. Players wore black armbands, and Hughes's test cap number, 408, was painted onto the field. Warner, Smith, and Clarke each scored centuries, honoring their fallen teammate. Warner, in a touching moment, kissed the pitch where Hughes had been struck. As time passed, many wondered what Hughes could have achieved had his career continued. He had already made history by scoring 2 centuries in his second test match against South Africa. His aggressive yet composed style of play drew comparisons to cricketing legends. He had faced challenges, particularly against short-pitched bowling, but he was a fighter, always determined to prove himself. His death also sparked discussions about player safety. Experts debated whether neck guards should be mandatory for cricketers. While a neck guard wouldn't have prevented Hughes' injury, the tragedy emphasized the need for better protective gear. However, it wasn't until 2019 that some players, including Steve Smith, began using neck guards regularly. Smith himself was later hit in a similar spot during an Ashes match, which reminded him of Hughes's accident. The psychological impact of Hughes's passing was also significant. Sean Abbott, the bowler who delivered the fatal ball, struggled with deep emotional distress. During a 2016 inquiry, he spoke about how the incident had affected him, showing that the tragedy left lasting scars on everyone involved. Hughes's memory remained strong in the years that followed. Cricket Australia honored him by declaring he would be forever 63, not out. His family and friends continued to keep his legacy alive, ensuring that his passion for the sport would never be forgotten. As the 10th anniversary of Hughes's passing approached, emotions resurfaced. The world was reminded of a young man with so much potential, taken too soon. Questions lingered. What records would he have broken? What moments would he have given to cricket fans? Though time has moved on, the impact of his loss remains. Hughes' story is one of talent, determination, and an unexpected tragedy that shook the cricketing world. His legacy lives on in every game played, a reminder of both the beauty and unpredictability of sports. A sun-baked August afternoon, the white expanse of the Bonneville Salt Flats was alive with the unmistakable energy of Speed Week. Engines roared, heat shimmered in the distance, and the horizon seemed to stretch into infinity. A perfect stage for a man like Chris Raschke. For more than a decade, he had been a fixture here, a driver, teammate, and trusted figure in the rarefied world of land speed racing. On this day, he was once again behind the wheel of the Speed Demon 3 Streamliner, prepared to push toward the limits of human daring. Something devastating happened instead. Chris, 60, was far more than a driver chasing numbers on a speedometer. For 13 years, he had been an integral part of the Speed Demon racing team, known for both his precision on the track and his steady presence off it. Away from the salt, he served as Director of Sales and Marketing for Automotive Racing Products, ARP, a California-based manufacturer whose high-performance fasteners are trusted across top-tier motorsports, from NASCAR and NHRA to Formula One. Those who knew him in racing circles spoke of his deep mechanical knowledge, calm under pressure, and a determination that earned the respect of crews and competitors alike. Speed Week is a celebration of racing, a gathering of engineers and daredevils who come from around the world to chase records on the perfectly flat salt crust. On August 3rd, 2025, the event was in full swing, with runs scheduled throughout the day and conditions that seemed ideal. Chris's target was a record-setting run in the Speed Demon 3, a machine purpose-built for maximum velocity in the piston engine wheel-driven class. Shortly after 3 p.m., Chris launched his run. The streamliner sliced across the salt. By the time he passed the 2.5-mile mark, Chris was traveling at approximately 280 miles per hour. Then, in a split second, the run unraveled. Something went wrong, and the vehicle veered violently across the salt. What had moments earlier been a precise, controlled effort became a catastrophic crash. Emergency responders were at his side almost immediately. Medical teams began life-saving efforts on the salt itself, working with urgency under the afternoon sun. But the force of the crash had been severe, and despite their efforts, Chris was pronounced dead at the scene. No other participants or bystanders were injured. The announcement of his death rippled quickly across the Bonneville pits. Bonneville Nationals, Inc., the organizing body for Speed Week, confirmed the details and stated that the cause of the accident would be investigated. The Speed Demon team released a brief statement expressing deep grief and asking for privacy for Chris's family. For those who had raced alongside him or shared long days tuning engines, Chris's passing was more than the loss of a skilled driver. He was a colleague who gave generously of his time, a teammate who understood that records were won not just by speed, but by preparation, patience, and mutual trust. His work with ARP connected him to nearly every major form of motorsport, yet the Bonneville Salt Flats were where his passion was most visible, where he combined technical mastery with the singular courage it takes to drive at such extraordinary speeds. Speed Week resumed in the days following, but for many the tone had shifted. In remembering Chris Raschke, fellow competitors spoke of a man who understood those risks, but met them with skill, humility, and determination. Nicholas Mevely was a man driven by an unyielding passion for the ocean and the thrill of pushing human limits. A fearless spirit, he had quickly risen through the ranks of the competitive freediving world, earning respect and admiration from peers around the globe. In late 2013, at one of the sport's most challenging venues, Nick prepared to test his strength and skill against the depths, and then tragedy struck. Nick was born in Dunedin, Florida, and grew up near the water, developing an early affinity for diving and the ocean. As a child, he would spend his trips to the Florida Keys, spearfishing and diving for lobsters. Known by family and friends as a free spirit, Nick combined a deep connection to the water with a relentless drive. While he worked professionally in New York as a prop technician in the television and film industry, his true passion lay beneath the surface. He had been competing in freediving since 2012, a relatively short time, but rapidly ascended to the top ranks of the sport. Nick set several American records and won titles internationally, including first place at the Deja Blue competition and a silver medal in Greece's Ada Depth World Championship. Freediving is an extreme sport, requiring athletes to dive deep underwater on a single breath, without the aid of scuba gear or fins. Nick's journey with freediving was marked by remarkable achievements and near misses. Just a year prior, he had suffered a blackout during a dive and sustained a major lung squeeze, experiences he openly reflected on with honesty and resolve. His blog detailed how these challenges taught him to respect the power of the water and the unforgiving nature of the sport. Yet he remained undeterred, fueled by a relentless ambition to push his limits. At Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas, regarded as the world's deepest seawater sinkhole at over 200 meters deep, Nick was competing to break the American record in the constant no-fins CNF category. On November 17, 2013, he descended to a depth of 72 meters, approximately 236 feet in this challenging discipline, where divers must rely solely on strength and breath control. After reaching his target depth, Nick began his ascent, but shortly after surfacing, he experienced difficulty breathing and lost consciousness, a moment captured in a photograph showing visible distress just before he collapsed. Rescue teams acted quickly, pulling him from the water and administering emergency medical care. Despite their efforts, including resuscitation attempts lasting 90 minutes, Nick was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at Vid Sims Memorial Health Center. A post-mortem revealed his death was related to the extreme physiological stresses freediving imposes on the body, including potential lung trauma and shallow water blackout. Vertical Blue, the 9-day international competition hosting 56 divers from 21 countries vying for a $20,000 prize, was immediately canceled. Friends, family, and fellow athletes mourned deeply, describing him as a kind-hearted, passionate, and driven individual who inspired many with his dedication. He was remembered not only for his extraordinary athletic talent, but also for his generosity and warmth, frequently volunteering to support local communities around the competition site. In death, Nick Mavoli left behind a legacy of courage, determination, and humanity. His untimely passing highlighted the inherent dangers of freediving and the fine line athletes walk between triumph and tragedy. It was May 1988 in Tokyo, Japan. Julissa Gomez, a 15-year-old gymnast from the United States, was preparing for the vault finals at the World Sports Fair. She had already made a name for herself in national competitions and was seen as a strong contender for the upcoming 1988 U.S. Olympic team. This was a major step in her rising career. Julissa was known for her focus and strong work ethic. She wasn't flashy or loud, but was always committed. Born on November 4, 1972 in San Antonio, Texas, Julissa was the daughter of Otilia and Ramiro Gomez, two former farm workers who had worked hard to give their children a better life. Her love for gymnastics began at age 5, and by 10 she was training under well-known coach Bela Carolya in Houston. She quickly rose through the ranks. In 1986, she placed 4th in the all-around at the U.S. Championships and earned a spot on the national team. By the next year, she was already competing internationally. Her best events were the uneven bars and balance beam, but it was the vault that became the focus of her career. In 1987, Julissa left Caroli's gym, frustrated by his intense training style, and moved to train with Al Fong in Blue Springs, Missouri. Fong had a different approach, more patient and supportive, and he became an important figure in Julissa's life. As the 1988 Olympics approached, Julissa began working on the Yurchenko vault, one of the most difficult and dangerous skills in gymnastics. It required a round-off onto the springboard followed by a back handspring onto the vaulting horse. While she had natural talent, Julissa had trouble with this move. Her form wasn't consistent, and both her coaches and teammates noticed. Still, she was pushed to keep practicing and performing it in competition. On May 5, 1988, during warm-ups for the vault final in Tokyo, something went horribly wrong. As she ran toward the vault, her foot slipped. She lost control and slammed headfirst into the vaulting horse. The injury was immediate and serious. Julissa's neck was broken, and she was paralyzed from the neck down. Coach Fong, who had believed in her potential, watched in shock. He later questioned the pressure placed on young athletes to master such risky moves. Julissa was rushed to a hospital. Her parents flew from Texas to Japan to be by her side. Doctors tried to stabilize her, but her condition took a turn for the worse when she became disconnected from a breathing machine. The lack of oxygen caused severe brain damage, and she fell into a coma. Julissa remained in a catatonic state, only able to blink. Her injury was rare in gymnastics. Unlike common sprains or fractures, spinal injuries of this kind were almost unheard of. Her family continued to care for her for 3 years, but on August 8, 1991, she passed away at the age of 18 due to complications from her injury. Julissa's death shocked the gymnastics world and led to important safety changes. The International Gymnastics Federation made U-shaped springboard mats mandatory during competitions, not just in practice. These mats gave gymnasts more support and a safer landing area. The vaulting horse was also replaced by a larger, more stable vaulting table to prevent future accidents. A new rule was also added. Any gymnast performing the Yurchenko vault without proper safety mats would receive a score of 0. These changes were made directly in response to what happened to Julissa. Coach Fong later spoke about the dangers of the sport, saying gymnasts need to be aware of the risks but stay focused on their goals. Julissa's teammates honored her by dedicating their season to her. Her parents also shared a message encouraging young athletes to keep chasing their dreams, just like their daughter had. Julissa Gomez's life was full of potential. Her legacy lives on, not just in the safety changes that protect today's athletes, but in the memories of those who knew her and those inspired by her strength. It was November 8, 2019 in Hamden, Connecticut. Melanie Coleman, a 20-year-old gymnast from Southern Connecticut State University, was practicing at the New Era Gymnastics facility. She was highly experienced with the uneven bars, an event she had trained on for years. But during what should have been a normal session, something unexpected happened. Melanie slipped and fell. The fall caused a serious spinal injury. Melanie had been involved in gymnastics her whole life. She was well known for her skill, discipline, and kind personality. She was not only an athlete, but also a nursing student, trying to follow the same path as her two older sisters. Earlier that year, she had been named a Scholastic All-American by the Women's Collegiate Gymnastics Association, an award that honored both her athletic and academic efforts. Her coach, Thomas Alberti, had worked with her for almost 10 years. He was one of the first to reach her after the fall. Others at the gym quickly helped as well, giving emergency care until paramedics arrived. Melanie was rushed to Yale New Haven Hospital, where doctors did all they could, but the injuries were too severe. On November 10th, just 2 days later, Melanie passed away. Her death shocked everyone, family, friends, teammates, and the gymnastics community as a whole. Accidents like this are extremely rare in the sport, especially for someone as skilled as Melanie. She wasn't only known for her talent, she was admired for her supportiveness and her kindness. She volunteered to teach young gymnasts, helping children from ages 2 to 15 at New Era Gymnastics. Many of them looked up to her. Melanie grew up in Milford, Connecticut. Gymnastics was part of her family life. Her mother and sisters had also competed, and one of her sisters had even been her teammate at Southern Connecticut. The Coleman family was close, and Melanie was seen as the heart of that bond. Her mother, Susan, said in an interview, "We spent every day together for the past 20 years. We're going to leave an empty space in our photos for her." Her accident was called a freak accident by those who knew her. It wasn't due to carelessness, bad equipment, or unsafe conditions. The gym where it happened had always been considered safe and trusted. Even Coach Alberti said he couldn't understand how such a tragic event could happen during a normal practice. He remembered her as a natural leader and someone who helped others without needing recognition. She didn't care about winning or scores, he said. She wanted everyone to succeed, not just herself. Former coach Jerry Nelson also spoke about her, calling her a true team player and a pleasure to coach. Melanie had always stood out, not just for her skills, but for her strong character. At Jonathan Law High School, she earned all-state honors, served as team captain, and was named Most Valuable Player. She had even competed in the USA Junior Olympics program. In college, she continued to earn recognition and respect. After her passing, the community came together in support. A GoFundMe campaign raised over $65,000 in just days to help the Coleman family with expenses. Melanie's family later shared that she had chosen to become an organ donor. Through this decision, she helped give others a second chance at life. Southern Connecticut's athletic director, Jay Moran, said, "Melanie was a bright student, an excellent athlete, and a beloved part of our community. Her loss has been devastating." Melanie Coleman's life ended far too soon, but the impact she made continues to be felt by her family, her teammates, her coaches, and the many young gymnasts who looked up to her. It was July 1998, during the Goodwill Games in New York City. 17-year-old Chinese gymnast Sang Lan was preparing for the vault, an event she had trained for her entire life. Just the year before, she had become China's national vault champion. With her talent and discipline, many believed she had a bright future ahead. During warm-ups, Sang was practicing a basic move called a timer vault. It's considered a low-risk move, meant to get gymnasts comfortable before competition. But something went wrong. Sang lost control midair and landed on her head. The impact caused a serious spinal cord injury. She was unable to move. Sang was immediately taken to Nassau University Medical Center. Doctors performed emergency spinal realignment and fusion surgery. But the damage was permanent. Sang was paralyzed from the chest down. In the years that followed, Sang would claim the fall was not just an accident. She said a coach from another team walked into the vault area during her warm-up and removed the safety mat just as she took off. This sudden change caused her to lose control. Sang tried to report what happened while she was still in the hospital, but officials dismissed her claims. They said she was confused due to possible brain trauma and didn't believe her account. Sang had once been one of China's top athletes. Now she was confined to a hospital bed, her career and independence gone. Her injury made international headlines. While recovering at Mount Sinai Hospital, she received support from well-known figures like Leonardo DiCaprio, Celine Dion, and Christopher Reeve. However, her private life became complicated. She was placed under the care of K.S. Liu and his wife, Gina Hu Hung, a Chinese-American couple. They were supposed to support her through her recovery, but Sang later said they became overly controlling and limited her ability to speak about the incident. She claimed they made promises to cover her medical care and living expenses, but these promises were never kept. Instead, Sang said she was left without proper care. When Sang returned to China in 1999, the government praised her strength and used her story as a symbol of perseverance. But over time, she felt forgotten. She said the same organizations that once celebrated her were no longer offering support. Her condition worsened, and even with therapy, she could only do basic tasks like eating or using a computer. Her legs weakened further due to lack of movement. Still, Sang worked to build a public life. She became a television host, continued to speak publicly, and even carried the Olympic torch during the 2008 Beijing Olympics. But behind her public image, she remained frustrated by what she felt was injustice. In 2011, 13 years after her fall, Sang filed a lawsuit in the United States. It named several parties, including AOL Time Warner, USA Gymnastics, TIG Insurance, and Liu and Hugh Hung. The lawsuit claimed that the accident was preventable and that those involved had failed to properly care for her afterward. She asked for $1.8 billion in damages, also accusing Liu and Hugh Hung of trying to discredit her and control her life for their own benefit. Sang said they made harmful statements about her and tried to damage her reputation, including spreading false stories about her personal life. Most disturbing were the claims that someone in the household had acted inappropriately while she was in recovery. A police report was filed in relation to these claims. Public opinion was divided. Some people supported Sang, saying she was finally speaking out. Others accused her of being ungrateful or manipulated by outside influences. Still, Sang stood by her claims, saying it wasn't just about money. It was about getting the truth out and holding people responsible. By 2011, her legal battle was ongoing. Though many parts of the case faced delays due to legal time limits, Sang remained determined. Her story is one of strength, loss, and the long fight to be heard. It was July 19, 2019, in Oxon Hill, Maryland, at the MGM National Harbor. Maxim Dadashev, a 28-year-old Russian boxer, stepped into the ring for a crucial match. This fight was an IBF light welterweight title eliminator, meaning the winner would get a chance at the world title. His opponent was Subriel Matias, a rising Puerto Rican boxer known for his aggressive style. Dadashev had never lost in his 13 professional fights, with 11 victories by knockout. His speed and power had earned him respect in the boxing world, and he was confident going into the match. But no one could have predicted what would happen that night. The fight started with Dadashev looking sharp. He landed solid punches and moved well, but Matias kept the pressure on. As the rounds passed, Matias gained control, landing powerful shots. By the 10th and 11th rounds, Dadashev had slowed down significantly. He had taken too many hits and his condition was worsening. His trainer, Buddy McGirt, watched with concern. He knew how dangerous the sport could be and saw that Dadashev was struggling. As the 11th round ended, McGirt made a difficult decision. In the corner, McGirt pleaded with Dadashev to stop the fight. "Max, you're getting hit too much," he said. But Dadashev, determined to keep going, shook his head. McGirt tried again. "Please, Max, let me do this." Still, Dadashev refused. Knowing the risks, McGirt ignored his protests and instructed the referee to end the fight. At that point, Dadashev was already behind on the judges' scorecards: 109, 100, 108, 101, and 107, 102. He had endured heavy blows throughout the match. As the fight was called off, it became clear something was seriously wrong. Dadashev was barely able to walk as he left the ring. He needed assistance and appeared weak. As he walked down the corridor, he suddenly collapsed, lost consciousness, and vomited. Medical staff rushed to his aid. He was taken to the University of Maryland Prince George's Hospital Center, where doctors discovered severe bleeding in his brain. Emergency surgery was performed to relieve the swelling, requiring part of his skull to be removed. After the procedure, he was placed in a medically induced coma in hopes that his condition would improve. But despite the doctor's efforts, his condition did not get better. On July 23rd, just 4 days after the fight, Maxim Dadashev passed away. The news devastated the boxing world. A young athlete full of potential had lost his life in pursuit of his dream. His family in Russia was heartbroken. His wife, Elizaveta, and their 2-year-old son were left to deal with an unimaginable loss. In a statement, she described Dadashev as a kind man who fought until the very end, saying their son would be raised to be as strong as his father. The boxing community mourned his passing. Promoter Bob Arum, who had worked with Dadashev, expressed his sadness, calling him a terrific young man. His trainer, Buddy McGirt, who had made the tough call to stop the fight, was deeply affected. "It just makes you realize what type of sport we're in," he said. "He did everything right in training. He seemed okay, he was ready, but it just takes one punch." Matias, who won the fight, was also shaken by Dadashev's passing. In a statement, he expressed his sorrow, saying, "No one is prepared for something like this when chasing their dreams." He even refused to accept the $75,000 prize money from the fight, saying he didn't want it under such circumstances. Dadashev's tragic passing raised concerns about the risks of boxing, especially regarding head injuries. Some within the sport began discussing ways to improve safety. Marshall Cunningham, president of the Potomac Valley Association, acknowledged the dangers but also spoke about how boxing has helped many young people, saying it can change lives for the better. Following his death, investigations were launched by both the Russian Boxing Federation and the Maryland State Athletic Commission. The boxing world was forced to confront how one fight had led to such a devastating outcome. Dadashev's passing was a painful reminder of the dangers fighters face. While his career was cut short, his determination, talent, and spirit left a lasting impact on the sport. His memory lives on through his family, friends, and the boxing community, who continue to honor his legacy. October 14, 2014, started as a regular day for 23-year-old Peter Biaksangzwala. A talented midfielder for Bethlehem Vengthlang FC, Peter was known for his discipline, hard work, and love for football. As a rising star in the Mizoram Premier League, he had big dreams of playing at the national level, but no one could have imagined that his celebration after scoring a goal would take a devastating turn. That day, Peter's team was up against Chanmari West FC in an important match. In the 62nd minute, with the score tied, he saw his chance. He executed a well-timed header, scoring an equalizer for his team. Overcome with excitement, he decided to celebrate in a way he had long admired, by attempting a somersault, just like his football idol Miroslav Klose. Peter had practiced the move before, but this time things went horribly wrong. As he flipped into the air, he miscalculated his landing. Instead of a smooth finish, he came down headfirst, hitting the ground hard. The stadium's atmosphere changed in an instant. His teammates, who had been celebrating with him, quickly realized something was wrong. Their joy turned to panic as they rushed to his side, signaling for medical help. Peter was in pain and unable to move. He was carefully carried off the field and taken to Aizawl Civil Hospital. Doctors performed a CT scan and found that his spinal cord had suffered severe damage. It was a critical injury, and they immediately began efforts to stabilize him. Despite their best attempts, Peter's condition worsened. He was moved to the intensive care unit, and his teammates, family, and friends held on to hope. For 5 days, doctors worked tirelessly to save him, but on October 19, 2014, Peter passed away. His passing sent shockwaves through Mizoram's football community and beyond. His club, Bethlehem Vengthlang FC, was devastated. To honor him, they announced that his jersey number, 21, would be retired. The Mizoram Premier League released a statement mourning his loss, calling it a heartbreaking day for football in the region. Peter was a dedicated defensive midfielder, known for his ability to break up attacks and support his team. His coach, Danny Laldahama, spoke about his character, saying, "Peter was well-mannered and disciplined on and off the pitch. Players like him are rare." Tributes poured in from the football world. His teammates and supporters mourned his loss, while also remembering his contributions to the sport. His passing also sparked conversations about the risks of acrobatic goal celebrations. While these moves are common in football, few had ever imagined that a routine celebration could lead to such a tragedy. In response, the Mizoram Football Association and Bethlehem Vengthlang FC planned a charity match to honor Peter's memory. The event brought the football community together, not just to mourn, but to celebrate his life and legacy. Beyond football, Peter's family and friends were left to cope with the painful reality of losing him. His passing also raised difficult questions. Could something have been done to prevent it? What if he had landed differently? While no one could have predicted this outcome, it served as a reminder that even in moments of celebration, unexpected dangers can arise. Peter had been a promising player with a bright future. His story remains in the hearts of those who knew him and the fans who watched him play. Bethlehem Vengthlang FC and the Mizoram football community will always remember the young man whose talent, dedication, and dreams were taken too soon. On October 12, 2002, the clear blue waters off Bayahibe Beach in the Dominican Republic became the stage for a tragic moment in freediving. Audrey Mestre, an elite athlete at the very peak of her career, entered the ocean in pursuit of a world record that would test the limits of human endurance and skill. Just days earlier, she had pushed herself to depths few had ever reached, and the diving world watched with anticipation as she prepared for a new milestone. What unfolded that day, however, would end in devastating loss and raise troubling questions that still echo through the sport. Audrey was born in Saint-Denis, France, into a family deeply connected to the water. She began swimming as a baby, later becoming an accomplished scuba diver by her early teens. After her family moved to Mexico City, she pursued marine biology studies in La Paz, combining her academic interest in the ocean with her passion for diving. In 1996, she met renowned freediver Francisco Pipin Ferreras, whose mentorship soon became a partnership. Moving to Miami to be with him, Audrey devoted herself to mastering the extreme discipline of no-limits freediving, where divers descend with the help of a weighted sled and ascend by inflating a lift bag to speed their return to the surface. By 1999, she had set a women's world record, and a year later she surpassed her own mark. Her controlled technique, composure under pressure, and dedication placed her among the sport's very best. In October 2002, Tanya Streeter had just set a 160-meter no-limits record, and Audrey was determined to push further. On October 4th, during a practice dive, she reached 166 meters, already beyond Streeter's depth. Plans were made for a 171-meter attempt to take place just over a week later. On the day of the dive, Audrey descended rapidly, clinging to her sled, enduring pressures that compressed her lungs to the size of oranges and slowed her heart rate dramatically. At the bottom, she was meant to open the valve on a small air tank to inflate the lift bag, beginning the swift descent to the surface. Instead, she found the tank empty. Without the expected buoyancy, her rise was drastically slowed, complicated further by a strong current and a riser rope that was not fully vertical. A safety diver reached her and attempted to inflate the bag using his own air supply, but the lift remained insufficient to propel her quickly upward. The dive, intended to last roughly 3 minutes, stretched beyond 8.5 minutes. Audrey lost consciousness before reaching the surface. Her husband, diving with scuba gear, ultimately brought her up, but crucial minutes had already passed. On the surface, she still had a pulse, but with no doctor present and limited medical equipment available, attempts to revive her were delayed and unsuccessful. She was pronounced dead shortly after arrival at the hospital. The aftermath was as controversial as it was sorrowful. The diving community questioned the safety preparations for the attempt, pointing to the shortage of safety divers, lack of immediate medical support, and the failure to verify the air tank's contents before the dive. The event had originally been scheduled for a later date, and some claimed it was rushed with inadequate resources. Responsibility for checking the equipment became a source of dispute, and criticism focused heavily on Ferreras, who had overseen the setup and restricted others from inspecting the lift bag tank. While the death was officially ruled an accident, the absence of certain standard safety measures fueled speculation, division, and lasting debate. Audrey Mestry's death shocked the freediving world, not only because of the loss of a record-breaking athlete, but also because of the uncomfortable spotlight it cast on the sport's extreme risks and its culture of pushing physical limits. In the years that followed, her story would be told in articles, books, and documentaries as a way to cherish her memory, but also as a cautionary reminder of the consequences when preparation, safety, and oversight fall short in high-risk pursuits. John Rhodes Cobb was a man driven by speed and ambition, a figure whose name was synonymous with daring record-breaking feats. Throughout his life, he sought to push the limits of what was possible, both on land and on water. In 1952, at the age of 52, Cobb embarked on one final fateful attempt that would etch his name into history, but not for the reasons he had hoped. Born on December 2, 1899 in Esher, Surrey, John was the son of Florence and Rhodes Cobb, a wealthy fur broker in London. Growing up near the famous Brooklands motor racing track, he developed a fascination with fast machines from an early age. Educated at Eton College and Trinity Hall, Cambridge, he followed his father into business, eventually becoming managing director of several companies in the fur trade. Yet it was his passion for high-speed racing that defined his life. In 1924, John obtained a Royal Aero Club aviator's certificate, flying a Sopwith Grasshopper, and his skills as a pilot would later complement his racing career. His racing achievements began in earnest in 1925 with a victory in a 10-liter Fiat. Over the next decade, he earned a reputation at Brooklands for breaking lap records, notably in a 10.5-liter Delage, and later with his own custom-built 24-liter Napier Railton. In 1938 and 1939, he broke the world land speed record twice at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, reaching speeds of 350 miles per hour and then 369 miles per hour. His crowning achievement came in 1947, when he set a new record of 394.19 miles per hour, briefly hitting 403 miles per hour on one run, a feat that earned him the press title, the fastest man alive. His records remained unbroken until 1963. After dominating on land, John shifted his ambition to water speed. He commissioned a jet-powered speedboat called Crusader, built in just 7 months. The craft was constructed from plywood and high-quality aluminum and designed to challenge the world water speed record, then held by American Stanley Sayers at 178.4 miles per hour. In late August 1952, John arrived at Loch Ness in Scotland, where he intended to reclaim the record for Britain. Initial trials were hindered by rough weather and challenging water conditions. John made several test runs, reaching speeds of 100 and 140 miles per hour, but the boat struggled to get onto its sponsons, a critical factor for stability at high speeds. Even then, an artificial ripple was created by a following speedboat to help Crusader gain speed during trials. Despite the difficulties, on September 19th, John made his first official attempt. Strong crosswinds prevented a record-breaking run, though he achieved an average speed of 173 miles per hour, just shy of the existing record. Undeterred, he prepared for a second attempt. On September 29th, conditions were reported as well-nigh perfect. thousands gathered on the shores of Loch Ness to witness the event. John piloted Crusader along the measured mile, pushing the speedboat beyond 200 miles per hour, significantly faster than the standing record. However, just before reaching the second timekeeper's hut, the boat suddenly began to bounce alarmingly. The oscillations rapidly intensified until the boat somersaulted and disintegrated in a cloud of spray and debris. The loch, nearly 700 feet deep at that point, swallowed the wreckage. John, who was wearing a life jacket, was thrown violently from the wreckage and landed some 50 yards from the destroyed Crusader. Rescue boats quickly arrived and his body was recovered from the surface. Despite immediate efforts, John was pronounced dead at the scene. A post-mortem later confirmed his death had been instantaneous. The designer of Crusader, Reed Railton, after studying crash footage, concluded that unrestricted oscillations in the boat had caused a loss of control, leading to the fatal accident. Contrary to some initial speculation blaming rogue waves or water conditions, observers reported no significant waves, only a slight ripple on the loch's surface. The tragedy deeply affected those present and the local community. John's wife, Margaret, who had witnessed the attempt from the shore, was quickly taken from the scene and left Scotland for London later that day. A funeral service was held in Inverness with notable attendees, including Reed Railton and local dignitaries. July evening in 2014, a determined young pilot prepared to complete an extraordinary journey that had captured the hopes of his family and supporters around the world. At just 17 years old, Haris Suleiman was poised to make history as the youngest pilot to fly around the globe in a single-engine aircraft. His mission was both a personal achievement and a heartfelt effort to raise funds for education in Pakistan's poorest communities. But on the final leg of this ambitious quest, something went tragically wrong. Haris was born and raised in Plainfield, Indiana, in a Pakistani-American family with deep roots in aviation. From an early age, flying was a shared passion between Haris and his father, Babar. Babar, an experienced pilot with over a decade of flying under his belt, had been mentoring Haris since he was 8 years old, nurturing the boy's skills and love for the skies. While Babar had originally aspired to join the Pakistan Air Force but did not pass the medical fitness test, he pursued engineering and later migrated to the United States, where he built a life for his family in Indiana. The Suleimans settled into their community, and Babar rekindled his passion for flying in the early 2000s, obtaining a private pilot license and purchasing a plane that would eventually become central to their record-setting journey. Haris, inspired by his father's example, earned his private pilot's license at 17, logging some 50 hours of flight time before setting out on the challenging 30-day, 26,500-mile circumnavigation attempt. Their goal was to raise $1 million for the Citizens Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to building schools and educating Pakistan's most underprivileged children. Along the way, the father and son duo documented their journey extensively on social media and blogs, sharing their experiences from various countries, including warm receptions in their native Pakistan. Despite minor logistical challenges, such as rerouting their flight from Kiribati due to fuel shortages, the pair remained steadfast, driven by their mission and the hope of inspiring others. On July 23, 2014, as the journey neared its conclusion, Haris and Babar departed Pago Pago International Airport in American Samoa, bound for Hawaii on what was to be the final leg before returning home to Indiana. Pre-flight checks were completed and weather conditions appeared favorable. However, witnesses reported that shortly after takeoff, the plane failed to gain altitude, instead veering right and descending rapidly into the ocean. The precise cause of the crash remains unknown. Haris's body was recovered in the hours following the accident, but Babar and the wreckage of their Hawker Beechcraft Bonanza, a 36 aircraft, were never found. Despite extensive search and rescue efforts by the U.S. Coast Guard, the operation was eventually called off after several days without further discoveries. The impact of the tragedy rippled deeply through the Suleiman family, their community in Indiana, and supporters worldwide. The loss was particularly poignant given the altruistic nature of the mission and the bond between father and son. The pair had undergone survival training to prepare for emergencies, yet nothing could have prevented the tragedy. The world recognized their courage and dedication. Pakistan's government posthumously awarded Babar and Haris the Sitara-e-Imtiaz, one of the country's highest civilian honors, acknowledging their commitment to education and public service. Donations to their cause surged, ultimately exceeding $3.1 million, more than triple their original goal. These funds facilitated the construction of 2 new school campuses in Pakistan and supported scholarship programs for students in Haris's hometown. Their story has inspired many beyond their immediate circle. Media outlets and public figures in both Pakistan and the United States commemorated their efforts, highlighting the young pilot's inspiring spirit and his father's unwavering support. Though their lives were cut short, Haris and Babar Suleiman's vision endures, reminding the world of the power of hope, family, and the drive to make a difference through courage and compassion.